Hello, everyone. Welcome to this essay writing workshop with Carolina Admissions. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to learn more about us and our admission process. My name is Madeline Snyder. I'm joined by my colleague, Alex Wadsworth. We are assistant directors in the Office of Undergraduate Admissions at Carolina, and we both really enjoy application reading and reading your essays, so happy to be sharing this info with you all today. We are going to start by talking about why essays matter in our process and what we learn from them and why we like reading them and how they help us make admissions decisions. But we're also going to share some tips for writing strong essays that we think will be helpful to you no matter where you are applying. So throughout this presentation, there are going to be moments where we are displaying longer examples of writing, and we encourage you to pause the video so you can take the time to read through those examples and reflect on them at your own pace. But to start, why do essays matter? So they matter to us because we really want to learn about you. In the application, we are seeking to get to know you. And my best advice for students filling out the application is always to use that space strategically and decide what you want us to know about you. What do you want to share with us? The essays are the main place to do that because the essays are where you are writing directly to us. And essays are a very important piece of our holistic review process. So of course, in admissions, when we are evaluating applications, we are seeking to admit students who are academically prepared, but we aren't admitting grades and test scores. We are admitting people, and we understand that you bring so much more than your academic achievements. So our goal in learning about you through your application is thinking about the type of class that we are building year after year, the group of students that we are bringing to campus. We want it to be a smart, caring, diverse group of students that is going to lift each other up, whose collective strengths, make them better than any of them are individually. And we kind of assess these qualities that you see on the screen by reading your application in its entirety, by reading it individually, comprehensively, and holistically to learn about you, learn about what you're passionate about, who you are, what you've been doing, and the context in which you have been doing it. So this slide really just gives some of the characteristics that we hope to learn about through your essays and through your application, but we really are learning anything that you share with us in those essays. So you control the narrative. I think that's an important part of thinking about writing your essays. And to start, we always like to kind of give you a moment to do a little bit of brainstorming. So we would encourage you to read through these questions that you see on the screen, pick the one that you think is most interesting, and then pause the video, take about 5 minutes to reflect on this question for you, and just kind of think about what are some elements that you could share in an essay. It can be quick notes, but just take some time to think about it and jot a few things down, and then we will go into our tips.
Yeah, and so as Madeline talked about, the essay does matter, and it's really your story. There's a story to share there, and it's very important for us to get to know you through the application process. But we also know that there is this question as you're applying to college as, how do I make my essay stand apart, or what advice do you have for writing an essay? And so that's what we want to transition into, is actually providing what we think are helpful tips for writing your essay. There isn't a common thing we look for, right? We want the essay to represent you, but there are definitely tips and advice that we think are helpful in writing your best essay, the best version of the essay that you're meant to write. And those tips for us are time, your voice, specific details, and interview via writing. And we're going to take a moment over the next couple of slides to go through each one of these tips and really walk you through what we think is helpful when constructing your essay. So let's start with time. It seems simple enough to say, but worth repeating. It's important to take time when writing your essay. Give yourself time to brainstorm, make drafts, get feedback, and really make sure that you're doing your due diligence and you're giving your essay justice when you're writing it. When seeking out feedback, it's important to go to those who you think know you the best, parents, friends, a counselor, and sort of let them read your drafts, see if they have any edits or feedback, but we do encourage you to make sure that the essay is your own voice, right? You're writing it yourself. So there is such a thing as too many cooks in the kitchen. We don't advise having multiple people help you write your essay, but definitely seek those that are closest to you, and getting feedback and making sure that it sounds like you. And that's going to be something we talk about throughout the day, is your voice. We really want to get to know you through this story. So taking time, plotting, being methodical about your essay is such an important component that's often overlooked. Many students wait till the last moment, rush the essay. They see it almost as an afterthought of the application, instead of being really a core component of the application process. We liken it to, preparing for an interview or a job, right? You wouldn't put it off to the last minute. You would prepare, you would do mock interviews, you would run through your answers. And we suggest doing the same thing with your essay. Really make sure that you're confident and comfortable when it comes time to hit submit, that you've given all the time required to write an essay that is reflective of you. That essay should also reflect your voice, right? This is such an important part of your narrative, of your story, of your application is your essay, because it is authentically you. And so those are our tips for writing your essay: is use your voice, be authentic, be genuine. We want to know who you are. We want to celebrate your accomplishments, your life perspective. And so writing it, trying to sound like an academic, like a research paper, is missing the point. Trying to be funny when you're more serious, trying to be serious when you're funny, sort of personality, that can really cause for a jumbled, sort of disorienting essay, because it doesn't sound like you and it doesn't give you the opportunity to be yourself. So really making sure that your essay is reflective of your voice, of who you are. And we talked about getting feedback in the last slide. This is a great place to sort of put your essay out there and see from your family, from your friends, if it sounds like you. We sort of give this example of, imagine you wrote your essay or deleted your name off of it and dropped it in the middle of your school. And if your best friend found it, would they pick it up, read it, and think, oh, this is my friend. I know who this is just by the voice, just by the words that are written on this page. If that's the case for your essay, if it sounds like you without them knowing it's you, then you're off to a good start, and you're probably writing an essay that sounds as authentic to who you are.
And our next tip is about using specific details. So on the screen, we've got 3 different topics, and the main headings are that's maybe where you start brainstorming. Maybe you want to write your essay about a peer, or your love for a certain subject, or your background, a piece of your identity. That's great as a starting point, but then you have to, dig a little bit deeper. So these are some guiding questions that can help you draw out specific details. We really encourage you to go beyond kind of broad statements and narrow in on something more specific to you. And that's because if it's a broad statement, anybody could write it. But if it's told from your perspective or something that happened to you, then it will be more reflective of who you are and what you could bring to campus. If you're getting stuck about how to narrow down from a broad topic to more specific details, you can always ask yourself those guiding questions, like what you see on the screen: who, what, when, where, why. And this will help you really show what matters to you, show what you're interested in, versus just telling. I like to always provide the example, you could write an entire essay on your love for history. You might never actually say in that essay, I love history. But from reading it, I'm going to absolutely understand that you love history, because your excitement is going to come through. You're going to show that rather than tell it.
And then finally, we wanted to share this idea of sort of interviewing through your writing. Many admissions offices do provide students an opportunity to interview. Here at Carolina, unfortunately, we're unable to offer that. So we really do see the essay as an opportunity to get to know you, almost like we would in an interview. So this idea of interviewing through your writing can really be a helpful tool when thinking about, what would you want to share with us? What do you think would be most memorable about you? What is a core component of who you are that, if we only could know one thing about you meeting you, that would be it. That would be the thing that you wanted to share with our office. And again, as sort of Madeline highlighted, right, it's really about how you tell that story and how you would prepare that, even sort of in the informal setting of an interview, right? Meeting with us and just walking us through an event that happened to you, something that you really sort of that changed you or you carry with you, and really wanting us to know about that. Be comfortable in your writing, use topics that are relatable to you, that you can grab onto easily, and really just think about, what are those core things that really are so important for any admissions office to know about you when making an admission decision. And so over the next couple of slides, we've actually included examples of essays that we really think did a great job of putting a lot of these together, showing versus telling, interviewing through the writing, are really sort of plotted out and thoughtful, really sort of share the student's voice. So this is that section of our presentation where we really encourage you to, sort of pause, read through the entire essay just for guidance, just for an example of what we think are really good essays, and then continue to move on. So this is the first example that you see here on the screen. Another great example of these techniques that we're talking about. The third example, another example, and finally our last example that we think are all great ways of sharing a story with our office. Again, your essay might look very different because, again, it will be unique to you, but there are different sort of pieces of the information we've provided today represented in all these essays that we think really work.
So thank you again for tuning into our workshop. We would recommend that you keep in mind these 4 things as you're constructing your essays. Using your time wisely, starting early, taking the time to do drafts, using your own voice, sharing your individual story, being yourself, not trying to write like somebody else, using specific details, so narrowing down from a broad topic to something more unique to you and moving away from broad generalizations to your individual experience, and then interviewing via writing, letting us get to know you and the things that you think are most important about yourself. So remember, you're in control of this process. We hope that, in tuning into this workshop, we took some of the stress away from it, because we know writing an essay can feel like a really big task, but you're in control about what you want to share and what you want to let us get to know. So thank you again.
Yeah, and we're always here for you. So if you ever have any questions about essays, about the application, about Carolina, please feel free to reach out to our office. Madeline and I and our colleagues are here to answer your questions, whether via email or phone. We're happy to talk to you and happy to make this process a little bit easier. Thank you for watching. We hope this was helpful, and best of luck as you submit these applications.